Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 97. For those of you that follow along here at the Back of the Range each and every week, you'll know that I have just returned from a bachelor party in Las Vegas. There are definitely some blurry portions of the weekend, but I'm back in South Florida and ready to bring you another great episode this week. Before getting to this week's episode, let me say a few words about some of the golf courses I played in Las Vegas. I was able to play at Paiute Golf Resort, Bali Hai, and Cascata. So Paiute is only a 20-minute drive from the Strip, and it's actually owned and operated by the Las Vegas Paiute tribe. It's a 54-hole championship resort. It's the first master-planned, multi-course facility of its kind, built on Native American land. Awesome layouts, all three courses designed by Pete Dye, and definitely worth checking out. Bali Hai is a little on the touristy side, but you get views of the Luxor, Mandalay Bay, and really the entire Strip. We played it on Saturday, and it blew about 30 to 40 miles per hour nonstop the entire day. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what course you're playing in those types of conditions, it isn't going to be that pleasant. To be honest, that was the morning after I was introduced to a drink called soju. So allow me to explain. My friend Pedro, who's Korean, don't ask, invited several of his Korean friends to the bachelor party, and we had to have Korean barbecue on Friday night. No problems there. The food was incredible. Well, one of Pedro's friends, let's just call him, Frank, he decided to get everyone involved in multiple shots of soju. Soju is a clear, colorless, distilled beverage of Korean origin. At least that's what it says on Wikipedia. It's usually consumed neat, which we did, and its alcohol content varies from about 16.8 to 53% alcohol per volume. Well, after 10 to 20 shots of soju, I don't remember much more that evening. So perhaps I need to give Bali Hai another crack next time I'm in town. Less booze, less wind might help me change my mind. That brings me to the final round we played in Vegas, Cascata. Again, just 20 to 30 minutes down the road from the Strip near Henderson. It's pricey, it's lavish, it's exclusive, and worth every damn penny. 18 gorgeous holes carved out of the mountains. We saw Ram running across the fairways. What else? Let's see. You go into the clubhouse. There's a waterfall running through it. You go downstairs, and you're still inside, and there's your golf cart. Then a garage door opens, and out you come into this paradise. It's absolutely incredible. The greens, well, they're running about 13. The layout is challenging. It's fun. I posted pictures on the Instagram page. Go check them out there. We're at the Back of the Range podcast. It's really hard to capture the vibe in just pictures. So if you're ever in Vegas, go visit Cascata. I'm going to put links to all three courses in the show notes of this episode. All right, I know I've been rambling a little bit, so let's get to this episode quickly. But first, remember, keep leaving reviews in Apple Podcasts. In fact, if you do it right now, first person to send me a screenshot, I'll send you a towel and another souvenir that I have from the Walker Cup. Seriously, pause the episode, go into Apple Podcast, send me the screenshot via email. You can reach me at ben@thebackoftherange.com. You can also ping me on any of the social media channels. Follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have these hats and towels for sale on the website. You know what I do with the money from the sales? I buy more towels and hats to get more merch out there in your hands. So help out the podcast if you can. This week's guest is Will Zalatoris. Will had an incredible career at Wake Forest, and in 2017, he was first-team All-American, ACC Player of the Year, and a member of the Walker Cup team. He also won the Trans-Miss twice, the Pac Coast in 2016, and before he ever stepped foot on campus at Wake, he won the U.S. Junior in 2014. We spoke about his amateur days, the Walker Cup, some of what he experienced, and what the team this year would experience over at Hoylake. And you're going to see this guy on the KornFerry Tour this year, but don't be surprised if you see him on the PGA Tour very soon. So, Will, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the Back of the Range. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, haven't really spoken to a whole lot of players that are out there on the KornFerry Tour. And before we get to where you've been, and namely that's the member of the very dominant 2017 U.S. Walker Cup team. Let's talk about where you're at right now. Currently at the Albertson's Boise Open in Idaho. I'm going to Idaho for the weekend. Give me the places I need to hit culinary wise. What are the hot spots you've hit in Boise, Idaho that I should be aware of?
Well, last night I kept hearing this from a lot of players, kept hearing it from caddies, but some people told me to go check out this place called Funky Taco. And, I'm thinking, okay, great. Sounds good. I'll go check it out. And the menu is absolutely hilarious. Some of the stuff I can't even believe that they're printing on the menus. I mean, Funky is spelled lowercase f, capital U, lowercase n, capital K, lowercase y. But there's this whole strip on 8th Street in Boise that, I mean, if you've maybe had a couple too many beverages, you're just going to wander into a great spot no matter what. So
Perfect.
I'm jealous of all these people at Boise State because it reminds me of 6th Street down in Austin. It's unbelievable.
So you, I know that the PGA Tour is where you want to go, but and that's the goal. Obviously, very professional golfer, but seeing some of the smaller cities that maybe some of the KornFerry Tour stops find themselves in, has it been a fun year? Has it been kind of an entertaining thing as far as your first couple years as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, my first year out, I had a bunch of starts on the PGA Tour, so I got a nice taste of it. I really struggled my first year out of college, changing coaches, and really everything started to finally click at the end of the year, and was really excited. And after, going through those struggles and learning a ton, learning the routines, really breaking it down piece by piece. And in between those events, I'm doing the Monday qualifiers. So, the joke that I tell people is like, look, from where I went last year, I'm playing at Pebble Beach last year in the Pro-Am with Tony Romo as my partner. And a week later, I'm qualifying in Alexandria, Louisiana, where the best spot in town is Subway, and trying to Monday qualify for what was then the web.com event. And
right.
So it's, when people, say like, oh man, you got to go to, this town or this town, it's like, well, you should have seen what I was doing last year. So for me, I started this season without status and Monday qualified my into a couple events early and had a couple top 25s, and then ended up getting my card and worked my way all up into the finals. And so here I am. I've got 2 more events to get my PGA Tour card. So, after last fall where I was last summer really, where I was really struggling with my game, and, a year later, here I am. I don't want to call it mission accomplished, but, it's step 1, has definitely been accomplished, and now we're on to the next goal.
Well, and I think it's interesting to kind of focus on, I guess right now everyone's looking at the Tour Championship, and the big discussion in golf is, this staggered leaderboard that all these top 30 in the world, or top 30 on tour in the FedEx Cup points that they're starting at. And, I think, 10 under and 8 under and 6 under, and that's where all the money and all the focus is. But just to get on tour, I guess my question, starting your professional career, what has probably surprised you the most? Like, did you expect it to be like this? Or, I mean, how do you reflect back to being on that Walker Cup team, one of the top 10 American amateurs, and then now, as you said, your dinner choices are Subway at points?
Yeah, it's when you play at the top level of amateur golf, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, my final summer as an amateur, we had the USAM at Riviera, and then the other stroke play course was Bel Air. We had the Walker Cup at LACC. The Transmiss was at Prairie Dunes, and the Pac Coast Amateur was at Chambers Bay. And the year prior, I won the Transmiss at Olympic. And, the Pac Coast is at Seattle Golf Club, which actually hosted a Walker Cup as well back in the 60s, actually when Jack Nicklaus was on it. So it's like you play in all of these unbelievable courses. I look at the top 100 in Golf Digest, and I think, man, I've played all of these, and played a lot of these, not all of them, but I've played a lot. So I've also played them in events, which is really cool.
Right.
And so I think probably the biggest surprise would be, especially on the KornFerry Tour, you see these scores that are just so crazy low. And I kept thinking, man, these are scores that, I had never shot in these amateur events. And then once you see the courses, you're like, okay, I can understand that. I mean, there's a lot of pins that, they're tucking pins six or seven holes a day are going to be 3 off of an edge, and guys are still going low. And so that was probably the biggest surprise to me, was just realizing, I have no issues going low. I mean, a couple times this year, I've easily gotten into the teens, but, that was definitely something that, going out and par is essentially 67, 68. That was different for sure.
I know you've had to shoot these scores to succeed on the KornFerry Tour, but have you changed your game, so to speak, since turning professional? I mean, we hear talks of, I think recently Tiger and Adam Scott were saying, like, look, you can make the course as long as you want to, and you can tighten up the rough if you want to, but we're just going to hit the hell out of the driver and just bomb it onto the green or gouge it out of the rough. Have you had to actually change your approach to how you play golf now that you've turned professional?
Yeah, I mean, there's some courses when you're going crazy low. Most of those courses aren't going to have a whole lot of rough. Like this week, for example, we're at 2,800 elevation, which is a little bit over 5%, and we're playing a 6,900 yard golf course. And so, like the crazy part about where we're playing this week, just to give you an example, is the trees are all about 20 to 25 feet high, and there's a ton of them. I mean, they're every 10, 15 feet, there's a tree left or right of the fairway. But the difference is, it's the same width the whole way down the hole. So, if you put a college kid out there, they may say, they may try to keep it in play and hit a 4-iron and a 8 or 7-iron in. But once you get out here, if you bust one out there and say if you hit one of the trees, I mean, let's just call it a 450-yard hole, you're going to have 120 yards out of the rough. If you hit a decent one, obviously, if you hit one perfect, you're going to have 100 yards in the middle of the fairway, but at this altitude. So it's kind of like, pick your poison. Do you want 180 out of the fairway, or do you want 120 out of the rough? And the 10% that you end up hitting in the trees, do you just accept it and try to salvage 4?
Yeah. So
like there's been a little bit of a change in that perspective. It's more aggressive off the tee. Going into greens, not really. I mean, everyone, your shot dispersion is the same no matter where you are. So, the one that's 3 off of the edge and I'm aiming a couple yards away from that flag, and all of a sudden I pull it and I hit it to a foot, and you're like, well, hey, man, he's playing aggressive. Well, if I push one, if I push one 10 feet, now I've got a 35 footer, and like, oh, well, he's playing conservative today. And I hear that on TV all the time. It drives me crazy. But, that's part of the reason is, everyone's hitting all these wedges and 9-irons in. And yeah, I mean, I don't know the physics or the science of, drawing the ball back or whatever. Like, I don't know any of that stuff. I mean, I'll just play whatever you throw out in front of me. And, right now, yeah, it is the best bet is, like exactly to what Adam Scott had said, where it's like, they're playing Medina this past week, and it's a 7,600 yard golf course. And they're, winning score was 20. Yeah, it was 25 under.
Yeah, they just it. So before you turn professional, just a very incredible amateur career. You're at Wake Forest, ACC Player of the Year in 2017, and just, first team All-American, and obviously that leads into your spot on the Walker Cup team. Before I ask you a little bit about the Walker Cup, we just wrapped up a Walker Cup series here on the back of the range, focusing on all these young guys that are angling to get onto this year's team. And I was just curious, being at Wake Forest, first of all, how did Wake Forest come into play? And please tell me you have a good Arnold Palmer story to go with
it. So I actually grew up with Laney Watkins' kids, and okay. I went to high school. Yeah, I went to high school with Tucker and actually Kramer Hickok, who's out here he's at KornFerry Tour Finals. He played on the PGA Tour last year. He'll get his card back. He'll have a nice couple of weeks and he'll be set. But yeah, I mean, I'm originally from San Francisco, then moved to Dallas when I was 9. And, the big things I was looking for was great academics, small school, and obviously great golf program. And, I get to Wake, and it's 4,800 undergrad. The golf facility is right on campus. And obviously it's got one of the best traditions in the entire country. And so for me, when I walked on campus the first time, after Lanny badgering me for a few years, just saying, hey, just go take a visit. You'll love it. And took a visit and fell in love with the place. The big thing too is I was on the Arnold Palmer scholarship my freshman year there. And I got a letter. Actually, it was right when I got to school. I got sent home, but I also got a emailed copy from Doc Giffen, his secretary.
Yeah.
And I looked at it. I got my hands on it a month later, and basically it was saying, congrats on winning the U.S. Junior. And I'm, excited for you to, be on my scholarship. Obviously my scholarship has a lot of great tradition in it, and, basically saying just represent us well. And when I got the letter, I didn't know if it was a real copy or if it was just kind of a printed out, because, he typed everything, and even though he had beautiful handwriting. And so I actually have the letter, and I put my finger on his signature at the bottom of the page just to see if it was real ink. And I literally put my thumb on it and pulled it back, and then saw it was real ink. And I was just, my mom was watching me, and she's like, what are you so excited about? I'm like, this is actually his signature.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. And so if you look at it now, the N, E, and R on Palmer, it's like a little bit of a lighter blue. Yeah, just a little smudge for me making sure it was real. So I've got that actually, it's framed up back at my parents' house. And my dad said when I officially own my first own place, he's like, then I'll let you have it.
There you go.
Yeah. So he passed away, I think my beginning of my junior year, but he was, the letters were especially the part that, to me, the other one I got from him was when I made the Palmer Cup team, and it was, just what he was saying and how he was saying things. I mean, it's just an absolute gentleman. And obviously my captain for the Walker Cup team, Spider Miller, was really close friends with him too. So we shared a lot of stories, especially he gave me a lot of good ones. So
there's no shortage of Palmer stories. So I guess, what was that summer like? I guess I'm not going to ask you about 2016, 2017. Obviously great success. You won the Pac Coast in 2016 and the Transmiss. So you're definitely were on the short list for that Walker Cup team. But can you remember what that summer was like before getting selected? Because you weren't an automatic selection.
Right.
So what was that? What was that summer like? Just going to the USAM or going to play in different tournaments, knowing that it's a little bit more than just this one tournament. There's other things in play here.
Yeah, I mean, to show the importance of it, in 2015, I was on the Walker Cup practice squad. Had a great season, or a great freshman campaign. I think I finished the spring as like the 5th or 6th rated amateur in the world. And I got a call right after regionals saying, hey, we got you a spot in the AT&T Byron Nelson. And I'm really excited. And I just was having these horrible stomach aches for about 48 hours. And finally on Monday, I get this text message saying, hey, we're, let us know when you check in. We just want to say hi, John Drago, and who's a tournament director for the Nelson. And I was in the ER and ended up having an appendectomy and was out for, I was told 4 to 6 weeks, and I came back in 3 just to try to make that team.
Wow.
And tried to make sure that I could solidify that spot and try to make it. And because a lot of guys were playing some really good golf, Nieberge, I think he finished, 4th or 5th in the Open as an amateur. So he was a lock. There were a lot of guys that did some really big things. And so I came back and played terrible and ended up missing that team. And so for, a year and a half, that was all I wanted, was just make that Walker Cup team. And, that summer, I mean, that there's some pressure on you. I had a nice spring. I going into it, I think I finished first, second, then missed a playoff by 1, a 4-way playoff by 1 at ACCs, made it to nationals on my own. And like literally every event that was just kind of in the back of your mind. And so once it got to, that USAM, I thought I was far enough back that I needed to make a deep run, and ended up losing in the round of 16, but I didn't know, when I lost, I got interviewed when I got done, and they're asking me questions about the Walker Cup, and I gave them very straightforward answers saying, I don't know where it stands. If it happens, it happens. But, I know I put my best foot forward, and we'll just kind of see what happens. And so I was sitting there watching Doc and Doug grind it out for the USAM trophy when Diana Murphy called me. And I mean, that was like the first time that I think I had cried and, over golf probably since I was like 12 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, running downstairs to tell my parents, and neither of them could believe it. Like, are you sure? Like, is this for real? And so the first question I asked Diana when I got the call was, I said, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but, who else is on the team? And my hopes was that Scotty Scheffler and I were going to be on the team and maybe get paired together, because we grew up playing golf together since we were 9.
Oh, wow.
And so she just said, she's like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but I'll just go ahead and tell you that you and Scotty were the two most emotional people when you got the call. So it was pretty cool.
That's very cool. That's actually was going to be my next question was, where were you when you get the call? So that's great that you get it, and you glad you didn't fall down the stairs when you're on your way down to tell your parents. So. Oh
yeah. I had a date with Caitlin, my girlfriend, that night, and I had a couple too many cocktails because I was so excited about it. So woke up the next day and got back to work. I was actually heading off to school a couple days later. And so it was basically spent about 2 days at school at Wake, and then flew across the country and spent about a week and a half in LA for it. So it was awesome.
So you get all these guys there, and last year, or the 2017 team is just, I'm guessing it's probably one of the most heralded teams since that famous team in 07.
Yeah, Ricky, Dustin, Webb, I think Webb might have been 05. Yeah, Colt Knost, I think it was 05. But yeah, I mean, it was, we at one point this year we had, obviously Stuart Hagestad staying amateur. One day he'll be a Walker Cup captain, but all 9 of us were either on the KornFerry Tour or on the PJ Tour, and obviously Cam Champ and Colin Morikawa have won on tour already. So we knew we were going to be really good going in, but now we look back on it now and we think, man, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy that those two teams are exactly 10 years apart, because 07, Fowler, Horschel, DJ, Kirk, Knost, Keeney, Lovemark, Moore, Simpson, Kyle Stanley, and then, as you said, your team just is doing, kind of following in those footsteps and probably going to surpass it at some point. And just looking at, like you said, McNeely, Morikawa, and just the list goes on and on. Maybe walk listeners through like what it is like and what these guys on the 2019 team are going to kind of have thrust upon them at the very beginning. Like, I know when you get on site and you get all sorted, but what are some of the things that are happening just a week before? Is everyone just on text, just going back and forth, people talking about pairings? What were kind of some of the things you immediately remember about the very beginning of the week?
Yeah, I got Robbie Zelznick, who's a Walker Cup manager for the U.S., and he's he runs basically the player director of player relations for the USGA. So he does all the he's involved with the U.S. Open, the U.S. Senior Open, Walker Cup. He sends us a text message on, like, I want to say August 20th saying, hey, we're going to book your flights. We want you here August 31st. And I'm thinking that's a typo, because the event's on September 11th. It's 36-36, and it's, September 11th and 12th. And I'm thinking, man, that's a long time to be out there. But, yeah. Of course, some of the guys were worried about school, and, I was like, oh, the hell with it. I'll get out there. I'm going to be one of the first guys there. Let's just enjoy it. And, I'm only going to be on one Walker Cup team, I think, because I'll be turning pro pretty soon after.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, really, the first couple of days we were there was very loose. We played LACC a couple times. And then, the best part about those first couple of days is, you're trying on all the gear, and I mean, you're getting size for stuff that you didn't even wear that week. And, like I still travel around with my Walker Cup suitcase, and, I laugh because I look in my closet, I've got all my corporate golf shirts, and then I've basically got Walker Cup shirts, and then all the nice clubs that I've ever played, and all those nice clubs I've ever played are really from the amateur events. So it's hysterical the amount of stuff you get for one. But the big thing the first few days is they always try to incorporate something about the country, the United States as a country. And so for us, what we did was we actually went to Santa Barbara and looked at Reagan's library, and it was amazing. We had a private tour just for the team. Was really, really fun. And, later on in the week, actually, George W. Bush, 43rd president, had lunch with us and walked a couple holes with us. And so they always try to create, make sure that you realize, hey, you're representing the United States. You've worked really hard in your amateur careers. You've played for your school, you've played for yourself in these amateur events, but now you're representing a country, and this is different. And it really sets the tone for the rest of the week. But those first 4 or 5 days that you're there are an absolute blast. I mean, after we went to Reagan's library, went up to Valley Club in Montecito, then we played Bel Air again. And then finally, once Tuesday rolled around, was when we really started hitting the ground running and started practicing pairings and figuring out, hey, what about this pairing? What about that pairing? And so, a lot of what these guys are doing, I'm still on the Walker Cup mailing list. They're doing their kind of warm up, if you will, at Pinehurst.
Sure.
And then they're going to go back they'll head overseas. And I think they'll probably play, I don't know where they'll play, but they'll play probably 2 or 3 courses that are around there, and enjoy the experience of it all and all the different courses that, that they'll be able to play. But the big thing that is just so cool is just as for 10 days, it's basically, you're playing golf all day, and then all of a sudden you're having dinner with some people, and, it's a long week. I mean, that was something that Nathan Smith told me was, look, you're going to be up till about 10:30 at night with all these dinners, probably for about 4, 5, 6 straight nights. So get your rest when you can get it. And, even though we're playing Los Angeles Country Club and basically it was a playground for us all week, it took a lot to tame it back. So.
Sure. I can't imagine what it's like to not only, I mean, it's one thing playing in the United States, but these guys are going to be hopping on a flight and just getting completely encapsulated with this entire experience. It's just going to be this small group of guys, 10 guys on the team, obviously, and over there, you're right, just the places they're going to play and what that's going to be going through. I'm looking at the first match. I mean, Morikawa and Norman Zhang went off first on that first alternate shot morning and just absolutely destroyed Harry Ellis and Alfie Plant 8 and 7. Then you guys were the second one off. What were kind of, I guess it's your first tee shot. Did Redmond hit first, or did you hit first off of 1?
I hit first, but I actually played against my roommate from school, Paul McBride.
Yeah.
And so we saw, at the players' dinner, you switch ties. So, you get the RNA tie from one of the guys on the other side, and you give your USGA tie to one of the guys representing GB&I. And so we switched ties, and, it was a pretty cool moment. And we had talked about this for years. And of course, our first match, we're playing against each other.
Right.
And, yeah. And so we're playing, at LACC, the first hole is a par 5, and actually can switch between a par 5 and a par 4. But if you play it as a par 5, you're teeing off into the practice putting green right off the back porch. And of course it's a nerve-wracking tee shot to begin with, just because you're just getting everything going. And, as the matches go on, you're all, you get into a bit of a rhythm. But I just remember standing on that tee, and, the greens are as perfect as I've ever putted on. And, I'm standing there and I'm like, just please God, don't slip. just don't fall over. And I nuked one about as hard as I possibly could, and it just caught that left bunker on the left side, and we ended up having the hole. But yeah, it was a little bit of an eye opener. I mean, it took Doc and I a few holes to settle in, and then really after that, it was kind of off to the races for all of us. I mean, the funny part, when you're mentioning Norman and Colin, was Doc and I were on 10, and we saw Colin and Norman walking back towards the clubhouse, and we saw them and just said, well, what are you guys doing? Like, They said, "Oh, we're done. We just won." And we're like, "How many holes did you guys play?" I mean, no one's walking back from the only way they're walking back from where they are is if they're finished on 12, which we were thinking, oh, maybe they'll go 13 or 14 or whatever. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're done. We're heading back." And so they literally, their match was over in I think like 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was incredible. So, all those between with Doug and Norman and Colin and Mav, going undefeated. I think combined they went something. I think Norman tied one match and everybody else won everything.
Yeah, I think there was only 3 guys that went 4-0.
Yeah,
so I think it was Maverick, it was Gim, and it was Morikawa, I believe.
Yeah, Scotty and I actually joked about that I guess it was last summer, because he asked me, he was like, it was actually Scotty, Doc, and myself, and Scotty asked me something like, what was your total in the Walker Cup? And I said, "Oh, I went 3-1. He goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. There were 3 guys that went 4-0, and Norman went undefeated also. So I did okay. Don't worry about me."
Oh no. Well, think about it. Yeah. I mean, those 4 guys those 3 guys go 4-0. There's 12 points. Your 3 is 15. Yeah. There's only 19 points that you guys won, so someone had to fight it out. Yeah, Scheffler picked up the win. Scheffler won the singles. He did okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just funny. He was like, "Really?" I was like, I played okay. I didn't play as bad as you think."
We're going to let you keep the shirts in the bag. All right. So I don't want to ask about all well, I mean, I do want to ask, but I mean, what kind of just team room, what kind of team room environment is it like there? Is it like when you're just, so dominant and it doesn't appear, I mean, yeah, there's a tie in the morning session, but after the afternoon singles on the first day, you guys are up 10-6, and then really the next day you really turn it on. I guess what was it like Saturday after the first day session in the room?
Well, I think, the big turning point for us was getting through the foursomes 2 and 2 at the start. And when we had the afternoon singles, there was some vibe throughout the locker room that once we got through that foursome session, it felt like every single one of us was ready to take somebody on. It went from, everyone trying to mix together, talking about strategy and whatnot, to all of a sudden it was everybody's just going to individually take care about their business, but we're playing for each other. And, the part that was a lot of fun for us was the GB&I team actually had a pretty big following. They traveled well. And, it was funny after we got done in the foursomes and we're sitting on the putting green and Scotty's working with Ben Crenshaw on his putting.
Of course.
And so I'm like, well, I can't get any better than that. But we had some guys that were just absolutely heckling Cameron and me and Braden. They were just, of course they were drunk and they meant it in good fun, but they were just brutal. Just some of the stuff they were saying. And I remember they were friends of the guy that I played in that singles match. And so they were, kind of heckling me a little bit. And I'm like, well, whatever, this is all part of the fun. I embrace it. I'm not going to hide in a corner about it.
Sure.
And so I remember I won the first hole, made up and down, made birdie. And then on the second hole, I hit one to about 50 feet and had this big swinging big swinging putt. And I made it. And I just absolutely went crazy and lost my mind and was, going full blown Patrick Reed, throwing my fists up in the air and, looking at those guys. And I remember we were talking about some kind of strategy in that locker room before of, hey, if you're down, just save a match or whatever, or, just some funny stories that we had heard from, guys like Laney Watkins, playing singles. And so he ends up making a big charge on me. We get to the 13th hole and I think I'm 1 or 2 down at the time. And he was a really, really fast player. And I was just kind of taking my own sweet time. And so we were going to have a wait up on the green. And so I decided, I'm going to go to the bathroom. This is something that Lanny taught me was, if your player's ever getting into a rhythm or got some momentum going, just find something to break it. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the bathroom. I'll take my time. I'm going first. he outdrove me by 15 yards. And so I'd, go about my business. I go in there and I lock myself in there. I have no idea. There was the nicest porta potties I've ever been in my life. And you need 2 hands to open the door to get back out. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like trying to kick down the door. I'm in there for like 5 or 6 minutes. I have no idea what's going on. I mean, it probably looked like I was having a problem in there with the porta potty shaking. But I finally figure out that you've got to pull it out with the left hand and then do something with the right hand and turn it. And finally I got out, and, my caddy's looking at me. He's like, "You okay? You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
I just locked myself in the shitter.
I was like, "I'm all good. You don't need to worry about me. Maybe leaking oil here, but that's it." And so I turned it back around and ended up winning the match. And we were kind of talking about some of that stuff that night after we won. And some of the guys were following me. They're like, "Were you okay on 13? And I kind of told them what happened. They thought it was unbelievable. They're like, "Yeah, man, another blonde moment from Zalatoris. Awesome."
If we just keep him on the golf course, he's fine. But other than that, someone take him to the shitter. But that's awesome.
But in all seriousness, I mean, after the first day, we felt really confident with where we were. I mean, we were up 10-6, but it never felt like it was like we were up that big.
Okay.
And so, I think, what did we go 3-1 the next morning?
You went the next morning. You went 3-1 in the morning foursomes on Sunday, and then really you had the 6-point lead after that, and then it just all hell broke loose in the afternoon. Every single one of you guys won. I'm sorry. So basically, only Doc Redmond lost. He lost. He was 1 down to David Booth. Sorry, Doc, but you'll be all right with that. Hey, I'm just reading what's in front of me. But yeah, Doc lost his match. Champ and Zhang halved. Everyone else won.
Right. And so, I mean, the big thing was when we got through, it's 10-6 and we go 3-1. And at that point, we're up 6, but we were down early in a bunch of the matches in the singles and, only 1 or 2 down. So it just never felt like we were going to win 19-7. Like it always felt like it could easily be a 3-4 point win. And, it could, and if it gets to that point, maybe things, slide the other way and all of a sudden it could be a tie ball game. And so for us, having that mentality of it's never over, even after having a really successful morning on that Sunday, we just never felt like we were going to, give it away or, we really earned it until the very last putt drop.
You had on that team just one guy that was making a repeat appearance in the Walker Cup. That was Maverick McNeely. Stuart Hagestad's going to be playing in his second Walker Cup this time around, going over to Hoylake. You mentioned that you think he'll be a captain one day, and as a lifetime amateur, that at least he's planning to be a lifetime amateur. I can easily see that happening as well. What are some of your memories of Hagestad? How do you think he is going to be over across the pond, not just on the golf course, but in the team room?
Oh, he was definitely the life of our party.
Really?
I mean,
because I've spoken to Hagestad a number of times, and he is, shall we say, a little intense. So when I hear life of the party, I do, that does give me a little pause.
He's intense until you hear him laugh. He's got that high pitched little girly giggle, and all of a sudden you realize, okay, this guy's a little fun.
All right, this episode's kicking into gear, Zalatoris. Let's keep it coming. Let's go.
But probably, I mean, the biggest thing with Stuart, and we always called him Papa Hag, and so some of the stuff, like after we won, he's throwing Spider in the pool at the Beverly Hilton multiple times.
Yes.
Next thing you know, we're going through bottles of champagne, and Stuart's over there basically asleep in a chair. But some of the his humor in general, even though he's very intense, he loves learning as a player. But when it comes to off the golf course, I mean, between Cam, Champ, and Scotty bickering at each other like two old ladies, and then you've got Stuart with the high-pitched giggle, laughing back and forth. And I'm just sitting there enjoying the moment. And I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, we were probably some of the best memories we have is in that team room, because Robbie Zelznick sets it up with, we've got cornhole, ping pong, and, it was Hagestad and me against Scotty and Doug Gim, and Doug was laughing so hard at Stuart because Stuart kept trying to throw the cornhole bags, and he like literally after a couple beers was missing practically the room. And I'm like, and I'm looking at him like, that's my partner, and Doug is on his hands and knees just crying. But I mean, and so of course the smack goes back and forth of, because Stewart's got the long putter, and he was joking about his chipping at the time. He said, "Oh, I'm chipping terrible," and of course he wings one 8 feet right of the bat, or 8 feet right of the board, and it's like, "Oh, Stewart back with the willies again." I love it. I love it. And it's just unbelievable. But yeah, that night after we won, I know there's some stories that I wish I could share.
You're doing fine.
I'll need some approval from some of the guys.
No, you got to keep the sanctity of the team room. I just like a little bit of taste and flavor is always good. So,
I will give you we'll give you one story that was awesome. That we went up to Valley Club. I mentioned we went up to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And went to the Reagan Museum, and so we had it set up to go play the Valley Club, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, I feel terrible that I didn't really know what it was up until that point. When you see Bel Air and LACC on your list, and then I see Valley Club, and I'm originally from San Francisco, so I was shocked. I was like, oh, I've never been there. I haven't really heard of it either. And it's just one of the most incredible. It's 6,400 yards. It's a Mackenzie design. It's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And we get out there and we're warming up on the range, and there's 150 people on the range. Like, mind you, this is like Tuesday. And we're just, out playing a little 2-on-2 games, just enjoying each other's company.
Yeah.
We get on the first tee, and there's literally, they told us they said there's around 200 members. And I was like, did every single one of them show up today just to watch us play golf? And so, we hit our first tee shots, and we're thinking, oh man, they'll be here for, maybe a couple holes, but they stayed the whole time. They watched us the entire time. And so we get done, and they've got an open bar and have some wonderful food for us. And we have this meet and greet with the members, and, being a short golf course and the guys with, great playing ability, we shot some pretty crazy low numbers. And so I want to say there were like 363s, a couple 64s.
Oh God.
And so the best part about this though was, Doc, I love you, but this is one of the best stories I've got about you. But Doug is standing to my left. I'm in the middle, and then Doc's on my right. And so Doug goes, "Hi," hands the microphone over. "Hi, I'm Doug Gim. I'm from Arlington Heights, Illinois. I'm from go to Texas, and I shot 63 today." And it gets over to me, and then, "Hi, I'm Zalatoris from Plano, Texas. Go to Wake Forest. I shot 63 today." And then it gets over to Doc, and Doc didn't play well that day. I think he shot a couple over, and, everyone's in the low mid 60s, but, Doc is awesome. And so Doc, after having a couple beverages, kind of fumbles his words, and, "I'm Doc Redman. I'm from Clemson, and I shot 84 today." and everyone just starts cracking up laughing. And Spider's over there with his hand in his head and just going, "That's our U.S. Amateur champ, ladies and gentlemen."
Yeah, there you go.
And it was, we laughed about that on the hour and a half ride home from Santa Barbara. We thought it was the funniest thing we've ever, oh my gosh. After that trip up to Santa Barbara and then that ride back, my stomach hurt the next day.
Just, God, you just imagine you're just the member there just getting blown away, and then all of a sudden the mic gets handed to him, and wait, what? Who is that?
Yeah. Everybody loved it. Everyone thought it was hilarious.
Oh no, that's fantastic.
But it was, everyone knew what he was doing too. Cause he gets followed up with, I want to say Colin shot like 64 or 5. And Scotty, I think, shot a couple under, and then all of a sudden gets a Doug. So it basically goes, 64, 64, 68, 63, 63, and you get a guy saying he shot 84 today.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Oh yeah. It's like, that's my man.
Yep. I was curious. I want to ask you. You had Spider Miller as your captain, just legend. In Walker Cup. I was kind of looking back at Walker Cup captains, and the last time that there was a playing captain was back in 83, 85, Jay Sigel, who also went to Wake Forest. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I mean, obviously, success in 2017 with Spider as your captain, but do you see a time again where there's maybe going to be more than one mid-am on the team, or perhaps even a mid-am playing captain? Do you see that in the future of the Walker Cup?
I mean, if Stewart keeps doing what he's doing, I think he's probably the best right now. He's the most viable candidate. I thought when he made the automatic pick, I thought there might have been a chance that the USGA might take a second one, but I didn't look at the new selection process of it all or anything. So I had no idea what to expect after that, but it's definitely doable. I mean, it's different than the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup in that it's only 2 days.
Right.
So you're lining everything up, that first day, unless something goes horribly wrong. You've only got 8 guys playing, where it's set up for us, because the winning team, or I think it's the host team, gets to choose if it's alternate shot or singles in the morning, and, whichever way they want to set it up. So if we hosted again, I think it would have to be over here, because we always want the singles to be at the end for us to have the advantage.
Right.
Obviously they play more alternate shot over there, but I think if it ever does happen, it would probably have to be somewhere here in the US, but it's definitely doable. I mean, like I said, it's only 2 days. So, it's not like there's, 12 guys to choose from and you're only picking 8, and this guy is sat out for 2 sessions. You got to make sure he plays some before Sunday. It's like, no, I mean, this is everyone.
Always.
They always, and the other part too is they always try to make sure that, at least on our side, that everyone gets 3 shots at it. They said everyone's going to sit out 1 unless, someone gets really hot or if someone gets really cold. So, that's where it kind of makes things a lot simpler for us.
Yeah. Will, let me get you out of here on one final question. You obviously have fond memories of the Walker Cup. There's 10 guys getting ready to go over to Hoy Lake. If you had a chance to talk to them and give them advice, what would you say to these guys going to represent their country at the 2019 Walker Cup?
The guys that are going over there, from what people have told me, I know Jordan Spieth, we obviously being a Dallas guy, I've gotten to know him really well through the years. What he told me going into 2015, where there was a chance I was going to be on that roster, was that it's different over there. We had 4,000 to 5,000 people a day between the practice rounds and the 2 days. And over there, apparently it gets up to close to about 10.
Yeah.
And the big thing is when you have momentum, especially, we experienced it where, we had the momentum on our side and in front of our home team, it just obviously staying patient and enjoying it. But, I think, if I'm going to give any of the guys advice, I've got to give the advice that George W. Bush gave us during that lunch was, there's different ways that you can represent your country. There's people who are in the military that sacrifice their lives for our country, for, the way how we're able to live. But, at the end of the day, you're wearing that red, white, and blue. And no matter how you do, obviously winning is the objective, but enjoy the experience. It is, to this point in my career, it is the best week of golf I've ever had in my life. And it's something that's, we could sit here over a 6-pack of beers and just start, that's something that I hope that someday would be able to do is, they have Walker Cup reunions and, just get the 10 of us together and just some of the stuff that, talking about our matches and whatnot. I hope that our team has been hyped up, pretty high with how well we've done so soon. And I hope that, someday we're able to look back on it and, kind of laugh. And, obviously all of us are going to be really successful professionals. So, nothing would make me happier than hearing Stewart giggle like a little girl and watch Cam and Scotty go back and forth. Cause I mean, it was unbelievable. I went back to school so tired just from all of our late nights of, laughing back and forth. And then, of course, don't forget the playing part. But
yeah, you had to hit a few shots here and there in between all the cornhole ping pong and laughing at Hagestad. So,
oh my God, it was just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
I really appreciate you sharing all these fond memories of the Walker Cup. I think it's great that you have such a fond memory of it and all the guys that are on the team. I know that the 10 guys that are getting ready to go over to Hoylake are... And there you have it. Special thanks to Will Zalatoris for joining this week. Good luck this season on the KornFerry Tour, and hopefully that'll get you out on the PGA Tour very soon. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Leave a review in Apple Podcast if you haven't already. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Episode 98 here at the Back of the Range.